8.
The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
Issues of the day under T-Radar.
Yeah, let's find out what his issues of the day indeed are. Joining us live via Skype video is T-Radar this morning. Good morning to you, T-Radar.
Good morning to you, Wammo, and still alive, which is good.
You were in Wellington on Saturday morning.
And I was woken and my bed was rolling across the hotel room floor, and the first thing I thought of was, oh, I'm going to die, and my dad, who used to work in Wellington a lot, he said, you should always, when you get into a hotel, you should always check where the emergency exits are. And I thought immediately of him. I thought, oh, I didn't check the exits. Because I'd gotten to the hotel quite sort of about 11:30 at night before I checked in. And I thought, oh, there's going to be an earthquake. I'm going to die because I don't know where the exits are.
Right. You know, Christchurch right now groaning as they're going, oh, T-Radar was in Wellington, and he thought he was going to die.
I know. But that's where you expect it to happen.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, the news covered with it the other day, and it's the interesting side stories to me that sort of are making it a little bit sort of bearable at the moment, such as Mike McRoberts tweeting that he didn't think TV3 had done a very good job and their ratings were down because they didn't have rolling coverage throughout the day.
Yeah, well, you'd be inclined to agree with him. I mean, not that we need every channel dedicated to it at the time. I mean, it's great to have just the one source to go to, but you got to say, I mean, him being that go-getter, kind of goes around the world to all the disaster zones. You'd imagine he would want it rolling all day.
Yes, I think the problem was that, according to the head of the news here at TV3, they didn't have any power. There was no power, so they didn't have power till 2 o'clock, so they couldn't sort of have the teams broadcasting stuff out of there. So perhaps what they really needed was a very long extension cord.
Yeah.
So now, speaking of things you need in an emergency, have you gone out and bought your bottled water yet?
No.
I
need to.
We're all thinking, must go and get some bottled water and some cans of spaghetti, but none of us have done it.
No, you're right. I'm hoping that there'd be enough water in the hot water cylinder. Is that? No. Yeah. Okay.
No, I don't. Or the toilet cistern? No. I think, and it's those small things. You think, oh, you don't have any water, you don't have any power, but then the thought of having to sort of do your business in a plastic bag and then dispose of it, then you go, oh, that is inconvenient.
What? I don't get the plastic bag thing. Why can't you dig a hole in the garden?
Well, maybe not everyone's got a garden or a spade.
This is true.
So, or maybe I don't know. But yes, and there's been a lot of very clever suggestions about that. Some people have said, you get a plastic bag and you put it around the toilet and you carry it business as usual, and then you take your plastic bag away. But it's one of those things you don't expect to have to do in a first world country, is to deal with your own waste.
No,
terrible.
It just shows that we are, we're only a few shocks away from that very fabric, that very civilized society that we think that we have is stripped away.
Well, they do. I think they say that we're 3 hot meals away from civil unrest or something like that. Someone did a study, and if you sort of take the hot meals away, suddenly everyone gets a bit edgy and things start to happen. But there are people who make the best of it. Overseas, there's a whiskey brewing company talking about getting rid of human waste, and they're taking the urine of diabetic elderly folk and they're turning it into whiskey.
Oh, that's useful.
Apparently, what's that? Cheerful, did you say?
Useful. Well, and cheerful.
Useful, yes. Cheerful, all right. And they're doing this, and you can buy these sort of little whiskies, and they've got the names of the elderly people on them, from whom it's come from, I believe. So it's one way of getting rid of it, I suppose, the kind of the high sugar content in that. It's, saves having to go and cut down sugar cane, fight big sugar, all of that sort of thing.
Would you give it a go?
Well, I probably would, out of interest sake. Look, if you didn't know where it came from, and it's been well sterilised in the process, it's really the thought of it, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. The clue would be Mavis whiskey.
Yeah, I guess so. And then you see her doddering down the street, you probably think, yeah, no, maybe I won't.
Mm.
But if it was all you had in your emergency pack, along with the empty space where you meant to put your bottled water and the 1 can of tiny beans that you thought you'd be able to make do with, you don't have your can opener or your batteries.
Talking about booze, there's a risk of Christchurch running out of beer.
Yeah, apparently Canterbury Draft, the brewery's been damaged down there. So there's a terrible thing they're saying, there might not be enough Canterbury Draft, which, there's plenty of other beer, but then they also said there's Guinness, Beck's, and the Max Craft range are also at risk. So, one of the unforeseen things, shortages of beer, all of these businesses that are going back to work, and there's no work there for them. Dreadful.
We need a diversion from this, a fun diversion. We do. We need to be taken away of this. We need to go away.
You need to go away, or at least rise above it somehow. And probably the best for this, you've probably seen it last little while. I know V have had one, and there's another company that's been one, is jetpacks. And you think, we always thought as kids that jetpacks were going to be the future. Well, we are living right now in the future, because there is a chance that in the very near future we'll get a chance to go for a ride on a jetpack. It'll cost about $300 for 10 minutes, and I'm not entirely sure how safe it'll be. But you can strap the jetpack on and you can fly up into the air and fly around and have a look at stuff.
Golly. But how high can you go? I mean, how high have they taken that? It's only been like a couple of metres.
I'm not entirely sure. The article sort of didn't say. But I suspect it doesn't take a very great height to fall from to give yourself quite a bit of serious damage.
Yes, this is true. The thing I don't like this being described as a jetpack, because isn't it like just a couple of big fans?
Yes. It's more of a fanny pack,
fanny
really,
pack,
isn't it?
Yeah.
And I'm not entirely sure that advertising fanny pack ride for $300 for 10 minutes is going to be a great media coup. So jetpack, a little bit more sort of exciting. And maybe, if they become cheap enough, we can all have them in our emergency kits next to the area where we meant to put our bottled water and the can of baked beans.
Yeah.
And we could have them if there was a disaster. For example, the Herald is reporting Auckland at risk from unseen threat of tremors. Well, I thought that most earthquakes were unseen threats, given that it's very difficult to sort of see where they are or are going to be.
Yeah.
But 49 sort of dormant volcanoes or something in Auckland, I would suspect that if anyone in Auckland thinks that we're not at risk, then they should probably think about moving to somewhere slightly safer.
Well, that's
like Hamilton.
Like Hamilton. Yeah, what can happen in Hamilton? Floods, I suppose. There's a few of those at the moment.
Well, there's flooding happening now, isn't there, down in the Manawa too? There's flooding, we've had earthquakes. Swine flu deaths are increasing.
Oh, well, that headline on the Herald on Sunday is starting to sound a little bit right now. Doomsday, it said.
Doomsday. And nothing like the Herald on Sunday, which is, of course, becoming increasingly tabloid, just display it across the front. Doomsday. And you went, well, not quite bad, admittedly, yes, but not really doomsday.
First word of the first article, looting.
And there has been, and a judge has cracked down on them, and they've named some of the looters as well. And I guess there's that question of if you're going after sort of electronic goods and jewellery and things like that, yes, looting, but what about if you're going after water and cans of food, toilet paper, plastic bags?
Not that has been required in Christchurch, that kind of behaviour. But
no.
Hey, finally, let's finish on a story in the UK.
Yes, look, every so often police do something a little bit foolish. In the UK, two officers pulled over a guy who was driving a turbocharged Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 8, quite a sporty sort of car. Took him away for suspected drink driving. They thought, oh, look, we won't wait for the tow truck to bring the car in. We'll take it for a bit of a ride. They did so, but clearly the ride they took it on wasn't straight to the station, because they flipped the car and it ploughed through a couple of front yards on the way. So officers suspended, driver angry, car totaled, not happy.
Got to be tempting, eh, when you're a cop and you pull over a flash car like that?
Yeah, it does. But I guess the moral of the story is if you are going to do it, make sure you can probably drive correctly.
Yeah.
What they needed was a little bit more driver training, I would imagine.
Yeah. So
terrible day for them. But thoughts today down to all those people in Christchurch. Aftershock still continuing, even late last night, up to 5 apparently on the Richter scale.
Yeah, it's not good for frayed temperaments and sleep patterns. That's for sure.
No, absolutely not. But here's a piece of advice.
Yes.
This was on a friend's Facebook site. You've got your little emergency bag packed by your bed. Put your shoes on the top of the bag, so that if you have to leap out of bed in the middle of the night, shoes straight on, no cut feet.
Good plan there. Thanks very much, T-Radar.
My pleasure.
Time now here on Kiwi is 28 minutes past 8.